WLEX, we're looking extra cool.
This is Channel 18's Action News. Central Kentucky's most comprehensive news report.
Good evening, I'm Ken Gullett. About 70 State Human Resources Department employees are circulating a petition saying working conditions at Eastern State Mental Hospital here in Lexington are unsafe.
18 Action News from Lexington, the heart of the bluegrass for all Central Kentucky.
Good evening, everyone. You may not have noticed, but the operator answering your call for assistance today no longer works for Mall Bell.
You're watching WLEX-TV Lexington. Now, noon today. Central Kentucky's most important news and information at noon with Sue Wiley and Tom Kenny. You're watching WLEX-TV Lexington. Now, 18 News Nightside. Tonight's news with Mindy Shannon, Mike Berry, Brian Collins Weather, and Alan Cutler Sports.
Good evening. Middlesboro has finally been declared a state disaster area.
You're watching WLEX-TV Lexington. This is Channel 18 News. Today's news with Bonnie Crescent and Gary Johnson. Now, 18 News, live at 5:30. WLEX-TV Lexington. This is Channel 18 News. Mindy Shannon and Jim Bailey with today's news. Brian Collins Weather. And on sports, Alan Cutler. Now, 18 News, live at 6.
Good evening. There is still no sign of a Lexington businesswoman who has been missing now since Friday.
From Central Kentucky's 18, your all-day news source.
Good evening. Here's some of the stories we'll bring you at 11. Some anxious moments tonight.
You're watching WLEX-TV 18. You're watching WLEX-TV 18.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tom Kenny.
And I'm Robin Rabbit.
You're watching WLEX-TV 18.
You're watching WLEX-TV 18.
Company wants to bring new jobs to Rowan County, but some residents say, not in my backyard, you don't.
And a word of warning for parents who have baby walkers. What's designed to help may actually hurt your baby.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to 18 Action News at 11. I'm Nancy Cox.
I'm Tom Kenny. We'll have more on those stories coming up.
You're watching WLEX-TV 18.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Kentucky Sunrise. I'm Lee Searcy. It is now 6 o'clock on this Wednesday, August 13th.
Hello, everybody. I'm Beth Pugh.
And I'm Michael Brooks.
Happy Wednesday morning to you.
You're watching 18.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tom Kenny.
And I'm Melanie Glasscock. Good evening, everyone. I'm Melanie Glasscock.
And I'm Tom Kenny.
Now, from WLEX, with coverage you can count on, this is LEX 18 News at sunrise.
Good Thursday morning. Wow, what a beautiful shot of downtown Lexington. That picture, of course, thanks to the...
You're watching Central Kentucky's #1 source for morning news, LEX18 News at Sunrise, with Dia Davidson, meteorologist Tom Ackerman, and Lee Cruz. LEX18 News, coverage you can count on. Now, from WLEX, with coverage you can count on, this is LEX18 News at 5.
10 years after being accused of killing her husband and burning down their home, a Lexington woman is indicted again. That's tonight's LEX18 big story at 5.
You're watching LEX18 News at 5 with Melanie Glasscock, Michael Brooks, and Chief Meteorologist Bill Meck. LEX18 News, coverage you can... Now, from WLEX, with coverage you can count on, this is LEX18 News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm John McGarry.
And I'm Tracy.
You're watching LEX18 News at 5:30 with Tracy Cornett, John McGarry, Chief Meteorologist Bill Meck, and Ryan Lemon with sports. LEX18 News, coverage you can count on. Now, from WLEX, with coverage you can count on, this is LEX18 News at 6.
And good evening, I'm Richard Long.
You're watching LEX18 News at 6 with Nancy Cox, Kevin Christopher, Chief Meteorologist Bill Meck, and Ryan Lemon with sports.
Now, from WLEX, with coverage you can count on, this is LEX18 News at 11. With coverage you can count on, this is LEX18 News at sunrise.
Clark County High School is closed following a chemical spill Thursday, and alleged bomb threats lead police to search a parish school. Get the latest in these stories and so much more straight ahead on this Friday. Finally, everybody, November 4th. Good morning, everybody.
Coming up on LEX18 News at 5.
A mercury scare puts a Clark County school on lockdown. We're live with the latest.
Someone tried to torch a parish school bus, then threatened to bomb the schools. We'll have the details.
Will a Boyle County jury believe a businessman who says he had no intentions to kill 3 people?
The Kentucky parents accused in their baby's death return to the state to answer to a judge.
With coverage you can count on, this is LEX18 News at 5.
A scare involving a dangerous chemical forces a Central Kentucky school to go on lockdown.
Coming up on LEX18 News at 6.
The crime tape is gone, but the investigation continues in Anderson County after a woman is found dead in her home.
18 months ago yesterday, Megan Liebengood was gunned down in her apartment parking lot. Today, her accused killers await their fate by a jury.
Still thinking about coming and watching the Cats play? We're taking you around True Blue, Philadelphia.
With coverage you can count on, this is LEX18 News at 6. Coming up on LEX18 News at 11.
A father admitted killing his son, leaving him in a hot car, but the Lexington man won't be in jail too much longer. Their child is still missing, but today they took responsibility for her disappearance. They're off, not the horses, but the balloons, lighting up the night sky over the Derby City.
With coverage you can count on, this is LEX18 News at 11. Coming up on LEX18 News at 5.
A friend finds an elderly couple shot to death inside their home. Now police are looking for answers.
With the LEX18 Storm Tracker forecast, we do have a tornado watch up across the northern part of Kentucky. More showers and thunderstorms are developing to our southwest. We'll show you where they're headed, what you can expect this evening, and that's all coming up.
With coverage you can count on, this is LEX18 News at 5.
Authorities try to unravel a mystery following the discovery of 2 bodies in a Scott County home. That's tonight's LEX18 big story at 5.
With coverage
coverage you can count on. This is LEX18 News at 6.
There's been an arrest in an afternoon shooting on...
With coverage you can count on. This is LEX18 News Evening Edition.
Welcome to LEX18 News. I'm Dia Davidson. It's 7 o'clock and Evening Edition starts now.
Count on LEX18 News.
State police continue the hunt for the armed man who robbed a Richmond gas station.
Plus, a Lexington murder suspect arrested over the weekend, set to appear in court today.
And a former Wildcat threatened with fines by NFL officials for his pair of cleats commemorating 9/11 victims. It is Monday, September 12th.
LEX18 News at Sunrise starts now.
Good morning. There we are. Good morning, everybody. It is 4:30 on this Monday morning. Chris and Haley here. We appreciate you joining us for Sunrise.
Count on LEX18 News.
The big story at 5. An argument between roommates is being blamed for a murder in Clark County.
LEX18 News at 5 starts now. Count on LEX18 News.
Grief on the Kentucky State University campus after a football player is gunned down in California. A lengthy prison sentence handed down for a Madison County woman convicted of torturing a young girl. And police in Wayne County say they are very concerned about a man who's been missing since last month.
LEX18 News at 5:30 starts now.
Good evening, I'm Angie Bevan, in tonight for Nancy Cox.
And I'm Kevin Christopher.
Count on LEX18 News.
We're live from the scene of a terrible crash in Mercer County involving 3 vehicles. Meanwhile, in Frankfort, a driver is critically injured in an accident involving a bus full of students. And police have arrested a man who they say escaped from a Georgia prison more than 30 years ago and has been living in Kentucky ever since.
LEX18 News at 6 starts now.
Good evening, I'm Kevin Christopher.
And I'm Angie Bevan in for Nancy Cox tonight.
Count on LEX18 News.
Right now on Evening Edition, a jury decides the fate of a man accused in a Lexington murder. Amidst the mourning for the Orlando shooting victims, the city also deals with the tragic death of a toddler snatched up by an alligator. And new tonight, a twist in the case of the man arrested with weapons and explosives in advance of a gay pride parade.
LEX18 News Evening Edition starts now.
Good evening, I'm Angie Bevan.
And I'm Michael Burke. Thank you for joining us tonight on Evening Edition.
Count on LEX18 News.
Scary moments as the deck gives way, sending partygoers crashing to the ground. That's tonight's LEX18 big story at 11.
LEX18 News at 11 starts now.
Good evening, I'm Nikki Burdine. Thanks for joining us.
Count on LEX18 News.
Coming up at 4:30, a woman is in a hospital this morning after a fire tore through her Lexington home overnight.
The very latest, plus 2 robbery investigations underway in Lexington this morning. Police believe they could be connected.
And highlights of the UK basketball team's second exhibition game of the season benefiting charity. LEX18 News at Sunrise begins right now.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Halloween on this Tuesday, October 31st. Thanks for being with us today. I'm Haley Harmon.
And I'm Chris Goodman. Let's see how it's looking for trick or treat tonight.
Count on LEX18 News.
Overnight snow and ice create slick driving conditions on central Kentucky roads. Plus, thieves target the food supplies of a Knox County homeless shelter. And Lexington police have opened a homicide investigation after a teenage shooting victim dies. LEX18 News at Sunrise Weekends starts now. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. It is Sunday, January 20th, and make no mistake, it is January outside right now.
Count on LEX18 News.
Right now at noon, a Kentucky man has drowned on vacation at a North Carolina beach.
A Bourbon County inmate dies while in jail.
And funeral arrangements set for a veteran killed in a weekend crash in Casey County. LEX18 News at noon starts right now.
A very good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dia Davidson.
And I'm Chris Goodman. Thank you.
Count on LEX18 News.
A Kentucky man's trip to the ocean took a tragic turn when he went under and never came back up.
Decades after one of Central Kentucky's most shocking murder cases, a convicted killer is sharing her story from behind bars.
And a Kentucky town is doing everything possible to be ready to become the most popular tourist spot in the solar system. LEX18 News at 6 starts now. Good evening, I'm Kevin Christopher.
And I'm Nancy Cox. Thank you for joining us at 6.
Count on LEX18 News.
Tonight, we're expecting some dangerous road conditions because of winter weather. We have a live look at the roads here. Plus, a Lexington homeless shelter is in need of more donations because of the forecast. And a Northern Kentucky high school is in the national spotlight after some of its students were shown in a video apparently mocking Native Americans at a rally in Washington. LEX18 News at 11 starts now. Good evening to you. I'm Kylan Mills. Thanks so much for joining us on LEX18 News at 11.
Count on LEX18 News.
Right now at 6:30, Lexington police investigating after the suspects from an apparent shooting took off from the scene and then crashed. We are live with the latest. Plus, 6 University of Kentucky football players are due in court today on burglary charges. We'll have the latest on that. And get out your weenie whistles. The Oscar Mayer Wienermobile is in town. Find out where you can catch the traveling hot dog today. LEX18 News at Sunrise continues on this Friday morning. Today is August 20th. And yes, I've got, they threatened me in the control room if I...
Count on LEX18 News.
Taliban now controls Kabul, Afghanistan, and the situation continues to deteriorate. Get the latest in the unrest. Plus, more than 1,300 are dead in Haiti after a deadly earthquake over the weekend. Now that island nation braces for another tropical storm. And moving during COVID, how things have changed for UK students as they get ready to start in-person learning this school year.
This is LEX18 News at noon, and it starts right now. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Chris.
Count on LEX18 News.
Coming up, Kentucky State Police Departments are working to help communities overcome mental health struggles after a major increase in crisis calls. Plus, another jump in flu cases in Lexington. Will break down numbers and show you what health officials say could be to blame for the increase. And doctors say that an ongoing vaccine fatigue is leaving some people vulnerable to respiratory issues. This is LEX18 News at 12:30. Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Angie Bevan. The pandemic has shined a light on.
Count on LEX18 News.
Well, the weather is calm, quiet, and nice, sunny even right now, but we're in for some big changes moving into Thursday. Soon the temperatures will drop and the snow will fly. We'll talk about how much ahead.
And from Lexington, crews getting roads ready for snow to the governor addressing the Commonwealth. We have you covered with today's biggest stories from across the bluegrass. Plus, there's sharp criticism over the confusion of the CDC's guidelines for isolating and quarantining. And the meaning behind a mother's billboard ad in Times Square for her daughter to find love. This is LEX18 News at 4. Good afternoon. I'm Angie Bevan. Thanks for joining us. Right now,
Count on LEX18 News.
Coming up, President Biden defends his decision to end America's longest war. We'll have the latest on the chaos in Afghanistan.
I'm really disappointed in our government right now.
We're hearing from a retired Navy SEAL from Kentucky who says he is in disbelief after the Taliban takeover. Plus, it's move-in day at the University of Kentucky, how COVID-19 is changing how things are done. LEX18 News at 5 starts now. Good evening, I'm Larry Smith.
And I'm Nancy Cox. Thank you for joining us at 5. Just about an hour ago, President Biden addressed the nation, defending his decision to withdraw U.S. troops from Afghanistan.
Count on LEX18 News.
Senator Mitch McConnell explains his thoughts on the situation in Afghanistan as Taliban forces retake that country.
plus, as the Delta variant spreads in Kentucky, hospitals are finding ways to increase capacity. How one healthcare system in the state is managing the rising cases. LEX18 News at 5:30 starts now.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dia Davidson.
And I'm Angie Bevan. Thanks for joining us on LEX18 News at 5:30. And after a soggy weekend, this wet weather is sticking around.
Chief Meteorologist Bill Meck joins us now from the
Count on LEX18 News.
You know, I just feel like all this loss, and now it's just like all for nothing. This is the worst part about it.
LEX18 speaks with a SEAL Team 6 veteran who served in Afghanistan. His thoughts on the Taliban taking over the country he and others fought so hard for. And Lee County schools are shut down for the majority of this week because of a COVID outbreak. LEX18 talks with the health director and the superintendent about what's next. Plus, UK students are officially moving back onto campus. How move-in day went for parents and students. Plus, a mother speaking out after her son is fighting a traumatic brain injury from a car crash caused by debris in the road. This is LEX18 News at 6. Good evening, I'm Nancy Cox.
And I'm Larry Smith. Thank you for joining us here at 6.
We're starting a new week.
Coming up on Evening Edition.
You no longer have to accept medication for the rest of your life. You can make a choice to explore what this device can do.
A Mercer County Treatment Center has a new way to help those fighting addiction. A look at the tool they say could help addicts with withdrawals. Plus, tomorrow is the presidential debate. What experts say the candidates have to do to get those undecided voters on their side. And
we're running rye bourbon on the west side, and we're running rye whiskey on the east side.
Tonight on our Spotlight on Lancaster, we go to one of the largest distilleries in the state. Find out how Garrett County Distilling came to be. Evening Edition starts now.
Good evening, I'm Megan Mannering.
And I'm Larry Smith. Glad you're with us. We begin tonight with weather as some strong to severe storms.
Count on LEX18 News.
Healthcare workers gathered outside Baptist Health in Lexington this evening to protest against getting vaccinated, why they say it should be a personal choice. Plus, Kentucky veterans speak out on the terror that's going on in Afghanistan and how it's affecting them watching it unfold. And a mother's warning about flying debris on the road as her son recovers from a serious accident. LEX18 News at 11 starts now. Good evening, I'm Larry Smith.
And I'm Nancy Cox. Thank you for joining us at 11. Heavy rain took up most of our month.
Good morning, it's 7:27 on Thursday morning. I'm Michael Burke. Here's what's making news at this hour. Police found a man and his wife dead near their home after a shooting in Pike County yesterday. Kentucky State.
Count on LEX18 News.
Draft night in the NBA and a local kid makes a little history. Got a full recap of the night.
Plus, debate night for the presidential candidates. We've got a live report from Atlanta.
And are those flock cameras we've heard so much about actually doing the job in Lexington? We'll take an in-depth look at the numbers so far. A new half hour of LEX18 News at Sunrise starts right now. Good morning. It's Thursday, June 27th. I'm Michael Burke.
I'm Evelyn Schultz alongside meteorologist Tom Ackerman.
Count on LEX18 News.
The first presidential debate of the 2024 election season showed what voters can expect from President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump if elected. We have a recap of the night. Plus, the people accused of killing a child with fentanyl poisoning were in court today. What happens now in their manslaughter case? And the engines are revving at Rupperita ahead of this weekend. We'll show you what to expect from the upcoming Monster Jam. LEX18 News at noon starts right now. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Michael Burke. We start with some breaking news today. Congressman Thomas Massey of Kentucky's 4th District announced.
Count on LEX18 News.
Good afternoon. I'm Evan Leake. Coming up, advocates are questioning a judge's verdict in a rape case. Our LEX18 Investigates team shows you why this is the second time in a month the judge has been put under fire. Plus, find out how a Lexington program is looking to engage the Latino population. And the Madison County community is honoring the life of a longtime middle school coach. Why they say the loss will be felt by man. That and more is LEX18 News at 12:30. Starts right now. Our Investigates team looks into comments made by a Fayette County Circuit judge at a recent sentencing.
Count on LEX18 LEX18 News.
Good afternoon. I'm Drew Ammon with what's happening in Kentucky, including free and confidential HIV testing happening today during National HIV Testing Day. Plus, we break down what you should expect during the first presidential debate of the 2024 election, the first debate between former President Trump and President Biden in 4 years. And we head to Washington with details on the newly released rulings from the U.S. Supreme Court earlier today. LEX18 News at 4 starts now.
I'm Michael Burke in Lexington, where several locations have been and will.
Count on LEX18 News.
New tonight at 5. We're about a day away from Joe Biden and Donald Trump's first presidential debate in 4 years. But will the big event make a difference either way for Kentucky voters? Plus, several former Wildcats are hoping to hear their names called in this year's NBA draft. We'll have an update ahead of tonight's first round. And organizers have released much more about the basketball tournament in Lexington this summer. We'll show you when a whole team of former UK stars will hit the court in Rump Arena. LEX18 News at 5 starts now. Well, there was a line of winds and rain across the bluegrass last night, including these ominous storm clouds that kicked up some dust and cut a softball game short in Frankfort. Now, we're looking at something a little stronger tonight.
And it might bring some less humid weather.
You're watching LEX18 News at 5.
The Supreme Court issued a pair of important rulings today, plus a slip-up noticed by followers online.
Coming up on LEX18 News at 6. The Lexington Police Department says block license plate cameras are helping officers solve more crimes in the city.
That's not going to take the place of seeing police officers. You're still going to see us. It just allows us to get from point A to point B much quicker and put our detectives where they need to be to help solve crime within your specific community.
Coming up, we're going in depth on the system and looking to the future for the technology. Plus, why health leaders are sounding the alarm on syphilis.
That is over, like the state average. And so we are certainly doing as much testing as we can.
The message officials want you to hear to help stop the spread. LEX18 News at 6 starts now.
Good evening, I'm Megan Mannering.
And I'm Larry Smith. Several lines of strong storms are moving through Kentucky.
So let's go straight to Chief Meteorologist Bill Meck, who's tracking.
Count on LEX18 News.
With the third pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Houston Rockets select Reed Sheppard from the University of Kentucky.
2 former Wildcats are top 10 NBA draft picks. Coming up, details on where they're headed to start their pro careers. Plus, Reed Sheppard's family and friends cheering him on from Laurel County. And we were there when the pick was made. LEX18 News at 11 starts now. Well, the 2024 NBA Draft getting underway tonight in New York.
Come on to the